You're gonna have to take us all then.
Let's fill up the rematch center. Make them fill up the damn rematch.
Woo!
That was moments after learning the court had granted the city's injunction and police can enforce it at 6 p.m. local tonight. The blockade was a response to the province's refusal to fund a search for the women's remains. Premier Heather Stefanson says it's too risky given the amount of toxic waste. For more on this, I'm joined by Wab Kinew, leader of the Manitoba NDP. A judge has granted an injunction to remove the blockade at the Brady Road landfill in Winnipeg. The protesters must leave. What's your reaction to this court order?
Well, I think that the judge also said that the protesters should be allowed to remain in the vicinity. So I think he's highlighting a desire that probably many Manitobans want to see, which is to have people come together and look for some kind of compromise or collaborative way forward here. I think Manitoba's Premier Heather Stefanson has made a serious mistake in ruling out the possibility of any search. I think we have to put the families first and foremost in our thoughts here. They clearly want to find the remains of their loved ones. And I think those of us who want to see public safety supported in Manitoba should recognize that finding the remains of these women may, in fact, increase the likelihood of a conviction in this case. And I think we would all like to see the person responsible, if it is in fact this individual who's alleged to have done it, them held accountable. So the point that we're trying to make is that we have to try. We should make a good faith attempt to find the remains of these women. And if there are concerns around price and the cost, then why don't we look at other options, other scenarios? But the bottom line is, out of respect for the families and to line up with the views of the vast majority of Manitobans who are compassionate, we need to make an attempt to do a search here.
Let's talk about the Premier for a second. Heather Stefanson has said quite clearly she thinks it's just too dangerous to search the landfill. There's toxic waste, there's industrial materials. Are you buying what she's saying there? What do you say to her concerns about some of the workers that might actually have to sift through all this stuff?
Well, you know, we are the party of working people, and I can tell you that there is a way with health and safety regulations that you can ensure that those risks are mitigated. We know there are many hardworking Manitobans who go to work with, chemicals and in challenging situations each and every day. And we're very strong on health and safety regulations so that we can protect people in those situations. And in fact, some of the costs that have been laid out for a potential search are all about protecting the worker and mitigating those sorts of risks. So really, I think when we look at the PC Premier Heather Stefanson, her objection really is coming down to the cost. And again, these price tags that are being floated might seem high, but if that is the concern, then why don't we look at other options? Again, if you get a quote from a contractor working on your home and you don't like it, what do? You get a second quote. So I don't see why in this situation we can't ask for a second opinion. We can't talk to other experts. But again, at the end of the day, find a way to get a search done and work with the families to respect their wishes and send a message to them that we care enough about them and the loved one that they've lost that we're at least going to try.
You mentioned the price tag. It is quite staggering. The report that was recently released pegged it at about $84 million to $184 million. And if you come back, if you get a second opinion on it and it's in around the same area, about $184 million at the top end, would you still support a search? Do you think that that's money well spent?
Well, we've been taking the time to speak to experts about this, and I think that there are other options on the table. Just to share a few with you and your viewers, we know that search dogs were used quite recently in Ontario to locate the remains of a person in a landfill. So why don't we consider that option here in Manitoba? We could also talk about the question of scale and look at the scale of this project and really arrive at a situation where perhaps we can find a really good balance and a workable path forward here that would respect the desire of the families and our needs around public safety, while also being responsible to the rest of the people in Manitoba, who I know are very compassionate, even if they have some questions about the path forward here. But I think the bottom line is that ruling out any form of a search is a serious mistake. Every common sense Manitoban, every common sense Canadian will tell you there has to be some other option between the $84 million price tag and doing absolutely nothing. And what we're saying is doing absolutely nothing is not an option. So why don't we work with families and work with experts and work with community to come up with another path forward here?
It seems like the federal Indigenous Services Minister, Mark Miller, agrees with you. He's called Premier Stephenson's response to this heartless, and he feels like there should be more done, that it's just not right to write this off. Do you think it would be appropriate maybe for the feds to step in here and foot the whole bill for this potential search?
Certainly, if the feds were willing to do that, I would encourage them to take action. But I think what Manitobans and Canadians would like to see here is leaders at all levels working together. And, we have an election in Manitoba this fall. If, our team is successful and we're given the chance to serve, what I would want to do is work with the mayor, work with the federal counterparts, work with Indigenous leaders, and of course, most importantly, work with the families and say, okay, we know we got to try. So let's find a path forward here that respects the needs of the families, is viewed as responsible by the broader community, but also reassures everyone across this country that in the face of one of the worst crimes that's ever happened in our province's history, we're not just going to throw up our hands and walk away. In fact, we're going to commit to the work that may be very challenging, but is super, super important in terms of providing a path forward on safety and reconciliation and bringing people together.
All right, let's leave it there. Thank you so much to Manitoba NDP leader Wab Kinew. Thanks for your time.